this week. How that as we go further and further into the so-called New World Order, you're going to see them pushing more and more against the scriptures. They're going to be pushing away more and more against the Bible. That's what's going to be happening within the so-called near future. All right. And it says there within the book of Isaiah, the 54th chapter on the 16th verse, behold, I created a smith. So the Most High created the different scientists, the German scientist that was brought over out there into America by a project known as, I believe it's called Project Paperclip. And they did what? And he says, that bloweth the coals, because in the ancient times, when you was bringing forth a sword, you would have to come out there, put the coals within the was it a cauldron, okay, and heat up the metal, and then melt the metal, and then fashion it into a weapon. Well, that's the same thing that these scientists be doing. They be doing it on the micro. You use the microscope. They'll use lasers, but essentially they're doing the same thing. They're heating up particles, and then they have it to where those particles cool down, and then they fashion a weapon. Okay. So it says, behold, I've created the smith that bloweth the coals, and he bringeth forth an instrument for his works. I've created the waste of the destroy. So the Lord created all of these things. All right, and that goes hand in hand with the book of Samuel, where the scripture says that what? The Lord killeth and maketh alive. In fact, the scripture goes in as far as saying, if the wicked be increased, if we're living in the society that benefits whites more than it does what's known as minorities, then we're living in a society that has it to where the wicked increase. But the scripture says, if the wicked be increased, it is for the sword. So the Most High's got it to where they're doing hella good right now. They're bringing children. The children ain't gonna worry about a damn thing. Here it is, you're so-called Negro, Hispanic, or Native American. You got to worry about how these children going to eat. Okay, whether they be, whether they be getting what they're learning from the different schools, and whether it's destroying them. You got to worry about all of these different things. But if you're an Edomite out here, you can have your children in private schools. You can have tutors come to your house and teach your children. You can homeschool them. That's how good these Edomites are doing right now. But the scripture says if they increase, all right, if they go on, if you will, it is for the sword. That's what the Most High set it up. That's why the Most High setting it up to where they're doing good. They're getting into the medicine. They're keeping healthy. All of that. You got a whole bunch of Edomites out there taking hella good of themselves. But that's just so that what? They be preserved for the day of judgment. Okay. So it says there. And this is dealing now with the 12 tribes of Israel and the elect of them. It says, no weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, and every tongue that rise up shall rise up against thee in judgment, thou shalt condemn. And this is what we're dealing with right now. In fact, when you go into the book of 2 Peter, the 3rd chapter, the book of 2 Peter, the 3rd chapter, speaks about how in the last days he was going to have a whole bunch of scoffers, and they was going to be speaking against the word of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. All right, but the scripture says that every word that rises up, every word that comes up against thee, thou shalt condemn. So you got a whole bunch of scoffers that come up to the camp, and they come up to the camp to get their judgment. All right, you might have it to where you bump into a guy that's got missing limbs, and you're wondering why the Most High presenting that person, because that was a person going back in the reincarnation that was probably scoffing at you. All right, going back on, because the scripture says the spirit of the prophets is subject unto the prophets. So a lot of these guys are jacked up. They come by the camp, they got missing limbs. They Edomites or heathens, they got missing limbs. They're looking all kind of messed up. That's because the Most High put a judgment upon them, and now you're seeing the judgment. But then that same idea is going to apply to what? Apply to within the people that come up to camp now and scoff. All right, because they're going to get their condemnation, and their judgment's going to come as a result. All right. So going back onto this particular precept right here, it says, no weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, and every tongue that shall rise up against thee in judgment thou shalt condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and their righteousness is of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. All right, so that's the heritage of the Most High set up for his elect. He set it up to where his elect, okay, his elect, all right, wasn't going to have it to where they was going to. Now, you're going to have some, the scripture speaks about how some of the men of the Lord was going to be destroyed for a testimony of Yahweh Shai. All right, you're going to have the martyrs out there. But for the Most High, you wasn't going to touch the anointed of the Lord, because the Most High put the hedge upon them. That's why they're out there with all kind of technologies. No pictures, please. All right, that's why they got all kind of technologies out there. All right, no pictures, please. All right, they got all kind of technologies out there, and they're doing their thing. All right, so to speak. But they can't touch the anointed of the Lord. All right, why is that? Because the Most High has put the protection out there. Not, like I said, you're going to have it to where someone's going to die. All right, you're gonna have some men that are gonna die for this truth, but for the most part, you wasn't gonna have it to where the elect of the Lord is gonna be touched. They was gonna be protected by Yahweh Hashem Yahushai to the end of what? A nation was gonna be risen up. It's gonna be raised up. All right, that's put in the book of Amos, the 9th chapter, how the Most High was gonna raise up the tabernacle of David. It was gonna be risen up, and ultimately that was what's gonna rule the world. All right, but going back onto this particular topic that got out here, in America is the main one that pushes forth idolatry, idol worship. All right, let's go back onto the book of Jeremiah, the 51st chapter. So Jeremiah 51:1, it says, "And thus saith the Lord, behold, I'll raise up against Babylon and against them that dwell in there, against me, a destroying wind." All right, and that's dealing with judgment. All right, you're talking about judgment. Why is the Most High going to bring about such a heavy judgment, such as never seen before? They're the ones that perpetuate idolatry. They're the ones that perpetuate fornication. All right, adultery. You got to wear a whole bunch of. You got a whole movie industry that promotes what? Adultery. But when you go into the scripture says that what? The punishment of adultery was to be put to death. So if a man was caught sleeping with another man's wife, according to the scriptures, they was going to be put to death. But you don't have that within this society. You have that embraced. Okay, you have a thing of whatever you love, that's what you're gonna do. But what does that bring forth? That brings about more death. And the Most High is watching the Most High put the if the Most High, okay, Yahweh, all right, he's got it to where a particular judgment is gonna come out within the earth for the ones that put that within those decrees. The scripture says, "Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees." So you got it to where if like you had the OJ thing, okay, OJ Simpson, he put his so-called adulterous wife to death. All right, but that was an unrighteous decree when they put him into what? Into the jail cell. That was an unrighteous decree because according to the scriptures, that particular judgment that he had put out there, that was a righteous judgment. All right. Now I'm not saying, I'm not condoning that. I'm saying, according to the scriptures, that's what you were supposed to do. But the legislation that they put forth, they have it to where you can't even do that. Hell, they go as far as doing this. You can't even discipline your kids. Now going back onto our generation, when we was growing up, you had it to where your parents would beat you if you was going off. And that had it to where what? You could raise up men. But you go to where right now the kids are all wild and bugged out. Like the kids right now that are like 20 years old, 18 years old, they're all bugged out and crazy because they never went through the chastisement that they were supposed to go through when they was young. That's another unrighteous decree that the devil had pushed out there forth to have it to where what? To have it to where the children was going to rebel against the parents. And that's what you see when you got particular individuals that come into this truth. They carry that trait of being rebellious against their parents into the word of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. All right. In fact, the scripture goes into the fact that the Lord it will chastise you, and it goes into, I believe that's within the book of Hebrews, maybe the 9th chapter, and how that your parents of the flesh are supposed to chastise you. All right. But that's another unrighteous decree perpetuated by who? By America. Okay. And to the end that what? That through their chaos they was gonna have it to where the so-called New World Order was gonna be set up. But I'm here to tell you they're not gonna accomplish that so-called New World Order. I'm here to tell you that the Most High is gonna have it to where when he was about to fill his belly, that's within the book of Job, the 20th chapter, when he is about to fill his belly, the Most High was gonna cast his wrath upon him. That's dealing also with what? With the finance that is spoken about within the book of Jeremiah, the 51st chapter. So let's read that real quick. Book of Job, the 20th chapter. Okay, and this is the 20th, let's start from the 21st verse. And they shall none of his meat be left, therefore shall no man look upon of his goods, but in the fullness of his sufficiency shall he be in straits. And that's dealing with what? The difficulties that's going to come about, okay, or that's going to arise by way of the so-called truth being going out there. Because when you go into where you're doing all kind of different projects, so-called secret projects, all right, like Project Bluebeam, or the secret projects that they be doing behind the closed doors to have it to where the word is pushed out there, like this flat earth thing. That was a edict. That was a particular decree that they pushed out there to come up against this truth. All right, but when he was about to be in the fullness of his sufficiency, he was going to be in straits because you was going to have a countermeasure, okay, placed, all right, every turn. So when they was going to push a particular doctrine, we was going to break it down, all right? Because now, we're getting into the high gears of them setting up their thing. That's why you got to where America and Russia are coming up against each other with trade wars and all of these kind of things, all right? Because we're at the time of World War III. Okay, we're in the time when the Most High was going to have it to where Esau was going to try to set up his thing and have it, damn near pop off. But the scripture says, in the fullness of his sufficiency shall he be in straits, and that's dealing with just being exposed. That's within the book of Isaiah, the 47th chapter. And we'll go into that in a second. All right, because that ties in quite nicely. Because that goes into the fact, in fact, I'll get it now, because that ties in with the fact that he was going to be in difficulties when he was going to try different enterprises, because you got a whole bunch of, you got the whole of YouTube out there, okay, that are on what's known as the exposing particular things. Okay, you got particular guys on YouTube, when the elites do a false flag, all right, so they can push a particular legislation. When they do a false flag, you got a whole bunch of guys on YouTube that go out there and break down the whole false flag. See, the internet has been a major instigator of difficulties for the elite banking families. They can't move how they used to move. They can't move how they used to do back in the day. All right, you got it to where people out here has got a mobile phone, they got internet access, they'll record. You have it to where you got people out there within Syria saying, look, what's happening out here in the reality, that's not what they're pushing out there in Western media. Okay? That's why this whole thing of the internet, they was gonna have it to where the internet was gonna be stopped really going into the light of times, but they want internet censorship so that they could do what's known as false flag attacks, okay, without having it to where what? Without having it to where it's gonna be exposed. Alright? In that what they was gonna try to stop this thing of the fullness of their sufficiency being in straits by what? By having it to where they control what's being pushed out there. They control what information is out there. Because through the internet, you can go to alternative news medias that will cut the whole so-called Western media BS, man. Or they might push a particular agenda out there within the BBC News or in Sky News, but you can go to an alternative news source and they give you the information. That's what it means by him being in the fullness of his sufficiency, being in difficulties, because now you got it to where the whole masses of the people are waking up to the fact that this man is the devil. And the further more and more he presses with his agenda of the so-called New World Order, the more and more you're going to have it to where people are going to wake up to the fact that this man is the deceiver that the scripture speaks about. Okay? So it says, in the fullness of his sufficiency shall he be in straits. Every hand of the wicked shall be upon him. Right? And when he's about to fill his belly, that shall the Most High cast his wrath upon him. So when he's about to really achieve that thing of the New World Order, when he's about to mass chip everybody, of which the scripture speaks about, there's going to be some chipping, okay? But you ain't going to have it to where everybody's going to be chipped. That's why you're going to have the elect that's going to remain, because the scripture says that what? If you was going to take that mark, you was going to be destroyed. But if you don't take that mark, you was going to be all right. So there's going to be people that are going to take the mark, but there's also people that are going to be have the mark of spiritual exemption spoken about within the book of Ezekiel, the 9th chapter on the 4th verse. That's going to mean what? That's going to mean it to where they're going to be have salvation of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai when he comes and he's sifting and he's feeding the people, man. Because there ain't going to be no food out here. They ain't gonna have. You think they're gonna bring forth a so-called New World Order, and you can have access to the internet without the chip? You can have access to your so-called riches without that chip. They're gonna crash every what's known as commodities, man. They're gonna crash all of those commodity markets so that you become dependent on the solution that they come with. That's why you have a thing called what? That's why you have a thing called order out of chaos. The chaos that they can create with the World War III. Okay, the chaos that they're gonna create with the crashing of the financial system, which is happening right now. A lot of people are there making holiday plans for 5 years from now. They don't know this trade war between America and Russia is gonna have it to where their economy is gonna be crashed. A lot of people don't know that. They don't perceive that. All right. You would think at least these so-called educated people will have it to where they're starting to move their money into gold and silver, but they're planning out how they're going to spend their next amount of debt. That's how these people are. That's why they're known as serfs, man. That's why they're insignificant, persona non gratas, because they can't perceive what's going on out here. But as for the men of the Lord, you're supposed to see these things. I know it's high time to wake up out of sleep, and high time that Esau's going to come down having great wrath, because he knoweth he has a short time. And how does he know he has a short time? Going back onto the point of this particular precept, because he's now starting to see the particular difficulties now in this word being pushed forth out. So we know his next thing is to do what? Is to try and stop the word forcibly. Okay? The book of Job, the 20th chapter, and the 23rd verse, it says, when he's about to fill his belly, shall the Most High cast his wrath upon him, and he shall rain it down whilst he is eating. So they might go for a certain period of time, all right, where it looks like it's going to work, but really that's when the Most High is going to rain his wrath upon him. Okay, during that thing of the World War III, that's when the scripture says that the Lord was going to make his appearance. So during that World War III, of which World War III might not just be like one day, really, we're already in World War III. So it ain't just going to be like one day event. We're already in World War III. Okay, but the main battles, the main big battles, where the Lord was going to present himself, that was more toward the end, where you're going to have ICBM nuclear missiles being unleashed in different places, and you're going to have what's known as mass casualties. Okay, so let's go back now into the book of Jeremiah. In fact, I wanted to go to the book of Isaiah, the 47th chapter. Okay, Isaiah 47:1, it says, "Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon." This is dealing with America, because when you go into the book of Psalms, what did it say? It says that Edom was the daughter of Babylon, because they had certain paperwork and certain allegiances that they had to what? To the ancient Babylonians. This is dealing with the Edomite with the Edomites. Okay, which we know as the so-called white people today. They're really the house of Esau, the Edomites. Okay, now they had certain treaties and deals that they had with the ancient Babylonians, which likened them unto the daughter of the Babylonians. It was a sister, like a sister nation, if you will. Okay, a sister country. Right, like you go to where America and Britain have got what's known as the so-called special relationship. Well, going back onto the ancient times, the Edomites had the so-called special relationship with who? With the Babylonians. Matter of fact, when you go into the scriptures and you read about the history about how the Babylonians took down Jacob, all right, the scripture says that how the Esau was amidst the Babylonians, and they were stopping it. They were stopping certain Jakes from escaping. That's within a little bit of that. It's within the book of Obadiah, which I can get right now. Okay. Okay, the book of Obadiah, the 14th verse, it says, "Neither shouldest thou have stood in the crossways to cut off those that did escape." That was during the Babylonian capture, the Babylonian siege of Jerusalem, and you had the Edomites that were out there. Okay, and you had certain Jakes that would escape, and them Edomites would stop their escape and bring them back to the Babylonians. Now, I say that, and I'm hoping, but my history is on point on that. But I'm pretty sure that's how the whole story transpired. So they was like a sister nation unto the Babylonians, and therefore they was known as what? The daughter of Babylon. Now we know it's talking about America, because when we go into the book of Jeremiah, Revelations, the 17th chapter, we know that this Babylon, that wasn't the ancient Babylon that it was speaking about, during the times of the Medo-Persians, and then the Medo-Persians took down the Babylonians, and the Greeks subsequently took down the Medo-Persians. No, we was talking about a Babylon that came after the Medo-Persians, the Greeks, and then during the time of the Greeks, when John the Revelator was writing this down, Babylon, the ancient Babylon, okay, the city and all of that, that was liquidated into the to the new rulers, which was who? Which was the Romans. So he wasn't talking about the Babylon raising up again and so on and so forth. He was talking about a new land of confusion. All right, and this leads in nicely into the lesson that I'm doing right now, which is what? Which is the thing of what? America being the main one that pushes idolatry within the world. And that goes back into the book of Jeremiah, the 51st chapter, which I'm working towards it, but we'll get to it. Okay, so the book of Revelations, the 17th chapter, and we can start from the first verse, and then we can go into the book of Revelations, the 18th chapter, because it expounds upon the same narrative, okay, of how a nation was going to be, a kingdom of people, all right, was going to rule a particular place that was going to have confusion, just go out there crazy, all right, and that's what we're seeing right here. Okay, you go to where you go McDonald's in every place, but where did the McDonald's stop? Is it making people healthy or unhealthy? You go into where you got obesity rates going out there skyrocketing in the so-called third world countries, because they had the what? They had the influence of the United States come up into that place, infiltrate, and now you go into where the people are eating all kind of crazy food. Okay, the whole structure within the family has been broken down. Okay, now it's been broken down. What you have? You're gonna have all kind of craziness, man. All right, this is what we're speaking about within the Bible. This is what we're speaking about within the scriptures, and this is what was prophesied about of that land of confusion being raised up. Okay, ruling the world, and everybody going bugged out crazy. Okay, so the book of Revelation 17:1, it says, "And they came, one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying, Come hither, and I'll show thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters." And this was dealing, and you go into the scriptures, it deals with nations, and it likens them unto what? Unto women. That's why that's why you go to the book of Isaiah, the 47th chapter. What did it say? It says the daughter of Babylon. It doesn't say the son. It says the daughter of Babylon. Just like how you have it to where ships have a feminine quality about them, so are nations. All right, so in this particular nation, America was likened unto what? A whore, because you go to where they commit fornication with what? the other nations of the other kingdoms, the other kings of the other nations, man, making particular deals and treaties that don't benefit in the long term. All right, deals that will benefit in the long term, they get pushed back into the background, man. All right, if you have a particular individual that comes out here and says, look, this particular herb is actually going to heal cancer, they ain't going to push that forth. All right, they've been numerous amount of people that came out with just simple treatments for cancers, man. And those people were put to death. Now, what does that go to show you? That money that they're making from those cancer pills, okay, which don't treat the illness, all right, they're making too much money, and they want to hold on to that. And that goes to show you that these leaders, they ain't for the people. Okay, they ain't pushing a thing that's what, you know, we're pushing for the people. They're actually pushing against the people. And that's why we know them through the scriptures as Esau, because that's the exact qualities that Esau had. All right, he was out of the temple. The scripture says there was no one more profane than Esau for one morsel of meat sold his birthright. So if this guy was going to sell his birthright for one morsel of meat, what do you think he's going to do when he has rulership of the world? He was going to destroy it left, right, and center, man. He wasn't going to have it to where he was going to make particular decisions that was going to benefit people in the long run. He made that particular decision to sell his birthright, all right, for food. And in a moment's decision, that's what you know as impulse. Okay, that was an impulsive decision based off what? Off of need then. All right, and that's how he rules his society right now. That's why they got this whole thing of nuclear energy. All right, they're having it to where the electricity that you have in your so-called domestic electricity. All right, that's what coming up with nuclear power plants. But where does the nuclear waste go? They dump it into the ground, deep into the ground, and that's going to remain radioactive for X amount of thousands of years. Is that a responsible thing to be doing? That's an irresponsible thing to be doing, and that goes to show you the mentality of the man that rules. And he has a thing of what? Being impulsive. Like he makes impulsive decisions that benefit today and they don't benefit you tomorrow. And that's why the Most High said that what? If you don't come anytime soon, all right, there wasn't going to be any flesh left to save. Okay. So now let's go back into the scriptures, the book of Revelations, the 17th chapter, and this is the second verse. And it says, with whom all the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been drank of the wine of her fornication. And this is the topic, man. This is the main bit of this particular section of the sermon, all right, where I'm dealing with what? America being the one that pushes forth the idolatry within this society.